What's going on, guys? So in front of me, you were looking at my 2017 F450 King Ranch with the 6.7 Power Stroke diesel engine. And I get a lot of folks asking me if I still like the F450. I know that I've made a lot of videos on this topic whenever we first got the truck because I talked about the steering angle. Basically, the wide track front end to this thing gives you the ability to turn significantly tighter, and the maneuverability of an F450 actually is superior to that of a lot of smaller vehicles like an F150. This thing actually turns sharper than an F150 crew cab four-wheel drive truck. Basically the same configuration. Now, that's a really interesting thing to say because this truck is actually about 2 feet longer than an F-150. So again, there's a lot of reasons why maneuverability in itself sells the F450. But let's talk about, should you get an F450? Is this the right truck for you? Hang tight, I'll be right back. Okay, so we've had the truck now for 7 years, and I got about 50,000 miles on it, so I don't have a ton of miles because I have other vehicles that I drive. This one's primarily used for towing, but more recently I've been driving it around a lot more because my wife really enjoys driving around the Denali, and I don't really like driving around her Expedition. So I've been spending a lot more time in the F450. You know, for those of you who are on the fence on if you should get an F450 or an F350, the advice I can give you is that if you primarily care about capacity and towing capability, I would say opt for an F350. If maneuverability is the number one thing you're looking for, that's really where I would recommend jumping to a 450. And I say this because there's a lot of folks out there who automatically think that the 450, because it's a 450, it has the 450 on the side right there, that it's a more overall capable truck. You may be right, but at the same time, you may be a little wrong there. The reason why I would say that if maneuverability, the steering angle, isn't the biggest factor for you, if you're completely fine with a truck that doesn't turn as sharp as this, and there's downsides to that as well, which I'll talk about in a second, but if you're completely fine with that, you're going to get a better ride with a 350 dually. You're going to have cheaper tires to replace with the 350 dually. It's going to be more available tires. You're going to be able to put a more customized selection of tires on. That's a big factor for a lot of folks. When you get 19.5-inch commercial wheels on a truck, you're very, very limited to the size of tire that you can put on it. It pretty much has to be the exact tire that's made for that specific wheel size. I know some people go larger, but it's not recommended because you can actually have a bead failure of your tire because commercial tires aren't made to stretch the same way that consumer tires are. So just something to think about real quick. Also, by having the improved turning angle on a 450, and this is going to be something that just about every 450 owner could probably attest to, it's going to cause really weird wear and tear on your tires, your front tires mainly. And when you turn sharp and you do it a lot, you're going to get some cupping, you're going to get some really awkward wear and tear on tires. And these Firestone Transforce tires I have up front are different than the Continental tires I have in the back, but these have actually been wearing really well. They've been doing a pretty good job. I'm not getting as much of that feathering, but you are still getting some. So if I get at the right angle here, you can definitely see where it's feathered up a little bit more on the edge. Right, there's a good angle. But they're not doing as bad because this rib design actually helps kind of mitigate that. So again, if you're looking at the differences between a 450 and a 350, you know, there's a lot of subtle differences, but there are a lot of similarities between the two trucks. The subtle differences, again, tend to be you have a slightly heavier duty front suspension. The rear axle is a little different. The half shafts that go into it are a little larger. The brakes are larger. That's the main reason why they put the 19.5-inch wheels, is because it has larger brakes. But when you look at overall capability, the 350 is going to actually be rated for higher numbers because it's a lighter truck, and I think I've mentioned that probably 1,000 times before. But overall, the two trucks are pretty much the same. Let's just put it that way. If I had a 350 dually next to it, the only real way that you could tell the difference between the trucks, other than the designation, would be the front width right here and the wheels and tires. That's really it. Other than that, the trucks look identical. The 450 does turn much sharper, and again, I'm beating that dead horse because that's the main key behind the 450. But the ride quality of the F350 dually may actually be enough for most people that it outweighs the maneuverability of this truck. Basically, if you're going in a straight line, down a highway, if you're going down typical street roads, the ride of an F350 dually is going to be significantly better than the ride of an F450. An F450 is going to buck you around quite a bit. Some people may not care. I don't care personally. My wife certainly cares. People that are in the truck care. Anybody sitting in the back seat of this truck cares. And that's even considering the fact I probably have over 1,000 pounds worth of stuff on the truck, between my toolbox, between the hitch plate in the back, between the front and rear bumpers, between the compressors that are underneath it. I mean, there's a lot of extra weight that's on this truck, and it's not calming that rear suspension. So just keep that in mind. The 450 is a great truck platform. It is not a necessity towing platform for a lot of folks. Any towing application that you could use an F450 for, right, you can use an F350 dually for. It's the easiest way to put it. Any towing application. The differences between max towing are slight. It's a couple thousand pounds, but we're talking about the mid to high 30,000 pound range anyways. And I don't think anybody in their right mind with a class 3 vehicle are going to be doing that. But just to think about that, if you are looking at an F450 because you want to have some huge advantage over an F350 dually in terms of towing capability or payload, you're not going to get that. The engines are the same. The transmissions are the same. The differences between the two truck really come down to maneuverability. That's really what it comes down to. Yes, there's other features, there's other suspension components and things that are different, but at the end of the day, it's the turning angle. That's all it is. So again, I get a lot of folks that say, well, JD thinks you need an F450 to haul any fifth wheel. No, you don't. An F450 is a great vehicle for me because I love the look. I love what the truck is capable of doing, but I could easily get away with an F350 dually and have everything that this truck can do with a smoother ride, lower cost tires. That in itself might be worth it to some people versus the steering maneuverability. Now, I'm not saying an F350 has like horrible maneuverability. It doesn't. It's just not as good as this. That's the key. So an F350 dually is going to still turn as well as any other dually. It's still going to perform in that sense just fine. You just get a little extra steering out of a 450, but the sacrifice you have is the fact that it does wear out your tires much quicker. So I don't think there's anybody with an F450 that would disagree with these comments. Some people might say, I'm totally fine with the ride, because I'm totally fine with the ride characteristics. It's just my passengers typically aren't. That's the key. They don't care for how this thing bucks you around compared to other vehicles that they ride in. Even some of the competitors, like a Ram 3500 or a GM 3500 HD or an F350, you know, those trucks are smoother overall in terms of ride comfort than the F450. Again, the only perk you got is really the turning. So if that's the only perk you're looking for, then the F450 may be the truck for you. But the best way to kind of point this out is they all turn pretty good. This just turns better. The rest of them are going to be superior in just about every other way. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again real soon.